Earlier today, I sat down with the counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, to ask her about this agenda and the future and more. Take a look. And joining us now, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway. Well, by the way, the first woman to ever win a presidential campaign as campaign manager. A little different environment.
It is, but same Donald Trump. I mean, a man of action, high energy, high impact. First full day on the job in the White House as President Trump, Sean, and it's just remarkable what got done on the first day. Right in this room, the Roosevelt Room, earlier in the day at breakfast, President Trump and Vice President Pence, they hosted major CEOs of companies that are in manufacturing and, of course, are great job creators. So these men and women came here to really talk about how to unleash American manufacturing, how to create more jobs, and do that without the yoke of regulation and taxation to which they've become accustomed. It was such a productive conversation, and I think they all learned from each other. They went into the Oval Office after that, chatted more, took some pictures. Which, by the way, is like 4 feet from here. Very close to here, steps away. And President Trump asked them, how many of you have been in the Oval Office before? And a few hands went up. Hours later, in the same room, President Trump hosted labor union leaders, the trades guys and gals, and some of the workers. And it was just a remarkable exchange on the day when President Trump made good on his promise to withdraw from TPP and to look at trade deals through the lens of the American worker and what's fair to us as a country, not always giving away the whole store to someone else. And he will negotiate bilateral deals in the future, but they have to benefit the American worker and they have to benefit the American interest.
I went through the entire list, just as I was introducing you, of everything that got done since he was inaugurated on Friday. And a lot has happened. But you also have all these businesses, everything, when you talk about Ford and General Motors and Apple and Fiat Chrysler and Alibaba and Foxconn, a $7 billion American plant, Kroger, 10,000 jobs announced today.
Started with Carrier.
With Carrier air conditioning. And it's interesting because it seems he has appointments now with the Prime Minister of Great Britain, the Prime Minister of Israel, the Prime Minister of Canada, and the President of Mexico all lined up already.
That's correct.
Is that the top priority right now, getting the economy going?
It's all of it. It's all of the above. It's getting the economy going, but it's getting the economy going in many different fronts. It's repealing and replacing Obamacare, which has been detrimental to the economy, and it's been detrimental to millions of Americans who already lost their insurance, lost their doctors, lost their plans. They were promised otherwise, and they're in a much less favorable position now, Sean, because of Obamacare. It was not affordable. It's not accessible. People, and even those who have the, quote, Affordable Care Act, many of them can't use that health care because their premiums skyrocketed so far out of control that it's useless to them. If you live in Arizona, a 116% increase. If you live in Pennsylvania, a 53% increase. And so Donald Trump, as president, is making good on that promise to repeal and replace Obamacare. And he's gotten a lot of help from his Republican Senate. Paul Ryan is working hard with him, the Speaker, Leader McConnell. Everybody's working toward these solutions. The other thing about the economy is if you can unleash more American manufacturing, if you can renegotiate trade deals that actually benefit the American worker and stop those factories and those workers from bleeding out into Mexico over to China, we've lost 70,000 factories. It's just a remarkable statistic. If you can lower the tax burden on our families, on the middle class, on the employers, the businesses that employ America, and you can encourage small business owners again, if you can invest in energy and unleash energy that's under our feet and off our shores in a way that nobody's ever really done, invest in clean coal, invest in shale and hydraulic fracturing the safe way, you're unleashing economic explosion and growth that is truly remarkable. He's promised to create 25 million jobs over 10 years. He's promised to have a tax reduction. And let me remind everybody that even George W. Bush, who came into office 5 weeks after the actual election through a Supreme Court decision, he came into office, some people felt cheated, there were hurt and raw feelings, but he got his tax package through by June of 2001, of those first couple months. And he did it with the help of Democratic senators, many of whom were up for re-election the following year and knew that their constituents wanted to share in that economic prosperity and tax reduction. I hope the same is true of this Senate so that people all across the land can benefit economically.
You know, you touched on a lot of the promises which I think propelled Donald Trump into this House that we're in right now. Paul Ryan wants a 20% business tax. We have one of the highest in the industrialized
Yes.
world at 35%. Donald Trump said 15. Will there be a negotiation on that? And the repatriation of trillions. That's a lot of money multinational corporations have parked overseas that could be used for investment in factories, manufacturing
That's right.
centers. That's a big part of it. Explain where they are, because they just met tonight as well, just as I was getting in here.
Yes, they are meeting as we're talking tonight, and they've been meeting quite a bit, which really tells you about the collaboration, the cohesion, and the negotiation that's happening in the interest of the American people. I will guarantee you one thing, that corporate tax, that business tax will be reduced by President Trump because...
Dramatically.
Dramatically. And he promised, he'll make good on his promise the way he's made good on promises in these first couple days, first couple hours. And what's important about reducing the burden on employers, Sean, is that those are the individuals who are deciding whether they can attract and retain a workforce here in America or if they're going to have to go elsewhere. Those are the people deciding whether they can afford to pay their workers benefits, like pensions, retirement funds, and certainly health care and other benefits, along with a good salary, along with a good wage. And so you've seen American business and the stock market, frankly, already respond so positively to President Donald J. Trump because they know that he's a master negotiator, the most brilliant communicator and connector I've ever met, and that he's taking all those skills to bear here in the White House. You know what's refreshing? Name one other person who ever came through this door as president who wasn't a politician, who didn't come to Washington owing someone something. It's liberating for him to walk in here and do this. And as we speak, he's in a different part of the White House right now, meeting with the bicameral, bipartisan leaders of the House and Senate. And that includes someone like Senator Schumer, who just yesterday was critical of Donald Trump, but yet comes here, I hope, recognizing that President Trump wants to find some common ground ways to work together on behalf of people.
75% rollback in regulations,
Huge.
which is costing corporations billions and millions of dollars. So you add that to the lower corporate tax rate, middle-class tax cut. You mentioned energy independence, Obamacare, more competition, lower rates, I would assume, and the energy issue alone, which is the lifeblood of our economy. It took President Reagan about 2.5 years before we felt the full impact of his policies. What can people expect?
Part of that is because President Reagan, not unlike President Trump, has inherited a bleak economic picture for many Americans. There are many Americans still trapped in poverty, about 16 million women alone, 12.4 million women that don't have health insurance as we speak. And I'm talking about women because I was acutely aware of the, quote, Women's March this last weekend, and I thought of all the things that we can count and quantify, of all the items that they could have listed on their list of grievances from the podium about President Obama, who was president for 8 years. President Trump's been here for about 8 hours. And, you know, if this is your list of grievances, then at least help is on the way. At least you've got the greatest fixer and rescuer and brilliant businessman in Donald Trump to help fix it.
What about Madonna's comments?
I think it will take a while to see that impact, only because so many people are so far behind now. Stop looking for work, are on food stamps, the way you like to say, are on poverty, are on teetering, just find everyday life to be unaffordable. That's why Donald Trump got, you know, when the labor union heads were sitting in here today, they would tell him.
And they've never been, this was interesting to me.
3 hands went up. He said, how many of you have been in the Oval Office when he took them into the Oval? And 3 hands went up.
This is the Democratic Party
historically. The
historically.
pipe fitters, the carpenters, the plumbers, the steel workers.
And he did
all
say,
the
I've
guys
hired
I grew
a few
up
of
with,
you
right,
guys.
Sean? All the folks we grew up with.
By the way, I spent 10 years of my life as a contractor.
That's
so
right, absolutely. So
full-time. Yeah.
And that is the lifeblood of the Donald Trump electorate, too. And they were just so grateful to him for having them in here to share with him and Vice President Pence their ideas on how to work together. You asked me about Madonna? Mm-hmm. She missed a tremendous opportunity. She has a platform and hundreds of millions of dollars. I didn't see her writing a check to any big women's cause.
What about her thought process of thinking of blowing up the White House?
Right, blowing down the office where my 4 children's mother works, sure. And then she said she was misunderstood. It was taken out of context. But I don't think that could be taken out of context. I think people feel very safe and very bold while they're up there surrounded by their friends and their colleagues. But the celebrity thing didn't work for Hillary Clinton out on the stump. She thought people were coming to her rallies. They were coming for a free Jay-Z and Beyonce concert. Mm-hmm. And even then it failed. We won Pennsylvania despite her and them, and the Obamas going to Philadelphia for her. it didn't work, and it's not going to work now. I thought they just missed an opportunity to really try to help women where women are in need.
Let me ask you this. So far, you're talking about, and this was surprising as I watched some of the media coverage of his inaugural address, and he actually reiterated the very things that he said in the campaign. You mentioned at the beginning of this interview fulfilling promises. And I guess as a conservative and the people that I talk to and the people that write me and call on my radio show, what they want to know is it's real about originalists. It's real about extreme vetting. It's real about the wall. It's real about the tax cuts. It's real about energy independence and trade deals and our military and our VA and education being sent back to the states. All of this, do you think you could touch? That's a pretty ambitious agenda.
It is, but that's Donald Trump. If anybody can achieve that, it's President Trump. It is real, and it's also happening right now, right before you, steps away from here. This is such a high-energy, high-impact place. And the other two things that Donald Trump did today as president was he, in addition to withdrawing from TPP, he instituted the Mexico City policy where we stop sending money to countries that perform abortions and sterilizations. That's great on the heels of the March for Life this coming Friday, where this administration will have representatives there, and that's very unusual for administrations to do that. We know that that will be a very successful march. We know that those women, those pro-life women, were not welcomed in the so-called March for Women because they are on the wrong side of that issue, because they dare to say that human life is precious, and they don't like the fact that our culture is sliding into that. And then he also today had a hiring freeze on non-military
I want to get to that when we get back, because he is, real quick, he is serious about a 10% cut in government spending and a 20% reduction in the labor force in government short of the military.
Yes.